All right, we're back for another video. We figured based on the amount of movement that's sort of been going on there, we wanted to do an episode on, that way, the Leafs goaltending as I come back into focus.
Got nothing.
A lot of changes in the goaltending department, firing Steve Briere, hiring their new coach, whose name I'm forgetting.
Gardner? Is that the last name? Nah.
I don't think so.
Man.
But yeah. Parting ways with Jack Campbell, trading Peter Mrazek to Chicago, acquiring Matt Murray from Ottawa, and then today, as we're recording this, signing Ilya Samsonov out of Vancouver. First question, and I think I know what your answer is going to be. Is the Leafs goaltending better or worse off today than it was exactly a week ago?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly a week ago?
Yeah.
Well, what was exactly a week ago? We had Campbell unsigned and just Mrazek under contract with Erik Källgren.
Well, it would have. Okay, let me break this question. Are the goalies today, who are currently under contract, better than the goalies the Leafs had last week, currently under contract, completely ignoring Jack Campbell about to be a UFA? He's still on the team.
He's still on the roster. Okay.
Yes.
It's a tough question. It's a very tough question. On paper, I would say no, not better. I think Campbell is the best out of the four, and I think Mrazek is maybe even the second or third best out of the four. So no. But looking at their stats and looking at how all the goalies performed last season, there's definitely a case to be made that this tandem is better than the tandem that we finished last season with in Mrazek and Campbell. I think just because of how bad that they played last year, there's a pretty low bar for Murray and Samsonov to come in here. And that's a good sign, because we know that even when the Leafs goaltending is shaky and they have Erik Källgren in net as their starter, they can still put together a great regular season, right? Look at how good their regular season was last year. One of the best we've seen, or I think was the best we've seen in their franchise history, with very shaky goaltending all season long. Other than that 1 month or 2 months that Campbell played great early on in the year. So that definitely gives me hope that Murray can be stable and Samsonov can be stable and, put up decent numbers, not amazing numbers, but just good enough numbers to win us games. And like I said in the previous video, look at Samsonov's win to loss ratio. He wins games, even though he's got that low save percentage. He wins a lot of games he won a lot of games for Washington last year. So I'm going to say, to your question, yes, it can be. This tandem can be better for sure.
I think, sort of countering your point and adding on to it, Sorokin last year had an .896 save percentage. It's a big risk.
Samsonov.
Here, both, Samsonov had the .896.
Mm-hmm.
The Leafs goaltending next season is a huge risk. You're taking on 2 years of Matt Murray at 4.6, I think is the number.
4.6.
That's a lot of money for a guy who's really struggled basically since leaving Pittsburgh. He had a really good stretch last season where he played really well. He was a plus in terms of expected goals against, or expected goals saved above expected. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So he was above Campbell, Mrazek, Sorokin, Samsonov. I get very confused. Samsonov. He was above all of them. And I think that's a positive, but there's the injury issues. He only played 20 games last season. He finished the year with a concussion that was lingering to the point where he couldn't go to the World Championships. the Leafs, it was such an issue that the Senators allowed the Leafs to do medical checks before the trade. And apparently that doesn't really happen. So I think there's a really big risk involved, but the connection there, I think, is really important too, because the head of the Leafs goaltending department or whatever was Murray's goaltending coach since he's like 7.
Yeah.
So they know each other really well. He played, of course, for the Sioux Greyhounds with Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe.
As players. No.
No, not as players. They were old enough to be players, but not as players.
Old enough to be players.
It's a big risk. And I think this is sort of potentially tenure deciding with Kyle Dubas.
I was just going to ask, like, is this the move that can make or break Kyle Dubas's job as Leafs GM? Because we don't know if they've signed into an extension or not. That might be behind closed doors, but this is his last year on his deal. Kyle Dubas. Is he going to be back next year?
I didn't know this is his last year.
This is last year. They may have extended him, but we just don't know. But yeah, this is his last year on his current contract. So this really could be it for him if Murray doesn't play well, or if Samsonov doesn't play well now. At least now, yesterday, lots of question marks. Matt Murray's our starter. Shalgren's backing
Shalgren up. Is the backup.
Wall's our third guy. Like we thought they would get a backup goaltender, but I wasn't expecting it to be Samsonov. That was kind of like my dream option. Like, okay, Samsonov and Murray, that's a decent tandem. It's not amazing, but it's definitely doable. It's competing with Campbell and Mrazek for sure. They can win you a lot of games, those two guys. Because if one falters, Samsonov has the potential to be the starter and vice versa, I think. But yeah, so yesterday, lots of panic. Today, I feel a lot better about it. I think Kyle Dubas did a decent job. He was definitely concerned about the term, right? With both Campbell and I guess Kemper as well. Maybe he didn't really know the market for Kemper as well as he did with Campbell, but I think he just wasn't willing to commit to a guy for 5 years. And like Kemper and Campbell have really like similar storylines as well in the NHL. Like Kemper was the backup in Minnesota for a decent amount of time, and same with Campbell. He was the backup when he was like 25. He started out like he was in the AHL for a while. And then they finally get a chance to become starters and they excel in those positions. But like those are risky moves as well. Like you said in the previous video, like Campbell and Kemper, they're not sure things, right? Like they've had a couple good seasons. Campbell's only really had one good season. But I don't
even think I'd put it as one good season. I'd put it as like 2 good months.
There you go. Yeah. 2 good months. Yeah. But and then like I'll talk about Matt Murray for a bit because like I was a Penguins fan, and especially around 2015, 2016, or sorry, 2016, 2017. I always get them confused because the Jays were so good in 2015, 2016. Like those are like the years, the core memories of sports for like 15, 16, 17. But yeah, 16, 17, the Penguins won back to back. And all I remember is Matt Murray coming in shortly after Dan Bylsma was fired in like December. And he was coming off like an amazing season in the AHL, first of all. Then he came to Pittsburgh and was just so steady for them. And they were the hottest team in the NHL heading into the playoffs. Then I remember, I think it was, the first round, the Penguins started off with like Jeff Zadkov in net because both Fleury and Murray were injured. The Penguins started off with Zadkov, and then Murray comes in and basically just leads them to the cup. There was a bit of a hiccup in, I think, the third round, and then there was like a flop. Fleury came in, but then Murray got the net back and then just led them to the cup. But he's calm. I don't know if you've seen a lot of like Matt Murray highlights, but he's not the most, I wouldn't say he's flexible, but he's not a flashy goalie, I guess.
He's not a James Reimer, Peter Mrazek scrambler.
He's not a scrambler. Exactly. He doesn't scramble. He's so steady, like slow movements. He's good at positioning. That's the big thing. But like on a 2-on-1, when he slides over, he's not like stretching out. He's just moving his body over to like positionally be in a good spot. So I think that could benefit a calm goaltender, who you know what you're gonna get every night. And there's not gonna be many turnovers, hopefully, no bad goals being let in because he's always in the right position at least. So I believe in Matt Murray. Like you said, the health is the number one concern. But I do believe that he can bounce back and be a good goaltender in front of a much better defensive team like the Leafs compared to Ottawa. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why he hasn't been good, because he's been on Ottawa. So if he's on Toronto, hopefully he bounces back. And I believe in him.
Yeah, I think this is a guy who's got a career save percentage of 911. That's pretty decent, and 2.77 goals against average. Last season, he put up a 906 with a 3.05 goals against average. Only 5 wins, though. 12 losses, 2 OT losses. In the playoffs, he's a lot better. 218 goals against average, 921 save percentage. That's really good. The issue is, in my mind, the history. You look at the 2 seasons before that, 893 in 2020, 2021, 2019, 2020, 899. Those are 2 really bad seasons.
Yeah.
I will admit he did go through that personal issue of losing his father very suddenly, and apparently they were very close.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a change of scenery will help with that.
Here's my counter argument to that. And it's not like I don't know. It's not like I have a lot of evidence supporting this, but like the years he's been bad, like if you're looking at Hockey Reference, the years he's been poor, he has been the main starting goaltender, right? In that 3rd season in Pittsburgh, Fleury's gone, right? They have nobody backing up Matt Murray. And then his entire time in Ottawa, he's supposed to have been the guy. But in the first 2 years when he was in Pittsburgh, he's got Fleury backing him up. They win Stanley Cups in both the years, and he played decent in the regular seasons as well. So in Toronto now, it's a tandem. He's not the guy, right? He can be a 1B, 1A with Samsonov. If history tells us anything, Murray strives when there's competition, when there's another guy, sitting on the bench that can come in and take his job. He's good working in a duo system. So, that could be a good thing. That could be a good thing.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note, like, he hasn't played more than 38 games. Like, the highest amount of games he's played in a season was 2018-19 when he played 50. 2019-20, he played 38. 27 in 2020, 2021, although that's the shortened season. So, was that the shortened? Yes. No.
2020-21?
2019-20 was the shortened season, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then 2021-22, he only played 20 games.
He hasn't played a lot of games in the last few years.
No, which is a worry, because if he can't go, your tandem is now Samsonov and Shalgren, maybe Wall if he's healthy. Yeah. So it's a big risk, I think is what we're trying to say. And it's a risk that, as we sort of said earlier, could cost Kyle Dubas his job. And it's a big bet to make. It's a really big bet to make. At the same time, when you look at the goaltending they got last season, if you can get league average,
yeah,
like
league
a
average.
905.
Yeah.
That's great. The problem is you're not paying Matt Murray to be league average. You're paying him to be a starting goalie. You're paying him $4.6 million or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And then look at his playoff numbers, right? 921 in his career in the playoffs. That's what the Leafs need. They need.
When was the last time he was in the playoffs?
Yeah, 2020, the shortened season. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
2 years or like 2 years removed.
it's, well, okay, I guess it's not that bad, but
Mhm.
it wasn't post his health issues. And I think that's an issue. It really
Uh,
comes down to, can the Leafs medical staff and development staff fix him to the point where he is the goalie he used to be and keep him healthy?
yeah.
And maybe can they find what's wrong with Samsonov to show that he's an like NHL starting caliber goalie?
Yeah.
Because that's always an option too, where you can just ship off Murray with an asset next off season, or you buy him out because the buyout isn't too expensive. I think it's like 1 point something in the first year and in the hundred thousands
Hmm.
the next year.
Or just put him on Robida Island if he's injured.
Also extremely possible given his injury history.
Yeah.
So I think initially this move was very not well liked, but
For sure. Oh my God.
with the subsequent moves, it's made more sense. And I think the Leafs got really lucky with Samsonov not being qualified.
Oh yeah.
Because otherwise it was they were talking to Kevin Lanikin today, apparently,
Hmm.
and maybe Eric Comrie, um,
Yeah.
which isn't quite the pedigree that Ilya Samsonov is. And maybe that is the goaltender of the future for you.
It could be. He's only 25 years old, and the ceiling is so high for him. And like he's only played, I think, 3 full seasons, not even full seasons in the NHL. And his first season with Washington was pretty good as well. Um, and like I keep saying, that the wins loss ratio is really good. And that, even though it's Washington that he's playing on, like just those numbers can definitely speak for themselves. He can win you games. And yeah, maybe the transition from Washington's defensive core to Toronto's defensive core now will make him even better. Um, so yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm definitely feeling a lot more confident about the goalie tandem than I was just 24 hours ago, less than 24 hours ago when it was just Murray. And yeah, like Leafs Twitter was going crazy a couple of days ago when the trade happened,
It
and
still is.
we only retained, or they only retained 25% of his salary. I was hoping for 50. That would have been great. Um, but now everybody sees the Murray Samsonov tandem and they're like, wow, chef's kiss, like great tandem.
Oh, I
Some
don't know
people
about
were,
that.
some people were right after we signed Samsonov. I went on Twitter and they're like, that's a good looking tandem, and I'm like, oh my God, Twitter's crazy.
I am not sold yet. Ask me at Christmas if I'm sold yet, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of uncertainty there still. And before we sort of jump to, oh, this is a great move, there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of uncertainty, and this could very,
for
very,
sure.
very easily blow up in the Leafs' face and really kill their season.
Yeah, it really could. It really could.
Oh,
Yeah, you're betting on a guy who's been injured for most of his career to be your
yeah,
starting goaltender, and who
yeah.
hasn't been good for most of his career as well. Like besides his first 2 years. Um, we'll see what happens, but I'm willing to bet on Matt Murray as well. I am. I like Matt Murray. I've liked him. And a funny story actually. I was talking to one of my friends. About this, who's also a Penguins fan. And at the time, I think it was maybe 2017, and I was saying like the Leafs, if they only had a guy like Matt Murray, like a young guy coming up, like that's the missing piece we need. Like we just got Matthews and Marner, and we have Riley. We just have no goalie. Like we have Anderson, but like we could use like a young, like 21, 22-year-old guy. Like we'd be great. Now we have him. We have Matt Murray like 5 years later. But let's do it. Let's do it. Let's win a cup. We know he can win a cup. He is capable. He is capable of winning a cup.
Yeah. So we will be back probably next week to talk more Leafs. We'll probably do a free agency sort of post thing video um, after they've presumably made and all their signings and maybe trades.
Yeah.
we'll see. But yeah, thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Appreciate the comment on the last Leafs video we did. But yeah, continue to check us out. We're trying to grow and we like doing this stuff. So yeah, this is fun. Yeah. So we'll see you with our next video whenever that comes out. Peace.